for the crop. But it does it better.
Hey, but you are so money and you don't even know it.
I understood that reference.
Morning, Mr. Hammond.
Your mission,
Should you accept it? Steal, destroy, shadow, disappear.
assemble the team.
And here we go.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Freewheeling Fridays. Here is a part of the Madness Entertainment Group where we have guests who are indie creators from all over the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I'm your host, Ryan, of And I Quote Channel, and our guest on this episode is someone who has dabbled in not one, not two, but 31 flavors of genres when it comes to writing best-selling books that have reached the New York Times bestseller list. Please welcome indie creator of his own little universe and idea man himself, Sean Taylor, is in the building today. Hello, Sean, good sir. How are you?
Ooh, hey, man. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you here. Now, if you have any questions for Sean as we go throughout the course of this program, let us know in those comments. Let us know in the chat. Be more than happy to take those as they come in. And do not forget to like and share this with every single person that you know. And if you're joining this live or on the replay, we appreciate you doing that all the same. With that piece of business out of the way, Sean, what would you say were some of your favorite books and or writers growing up?
Oh, man. I was always a huge adventure nerd. My favorite books, my absolute favorite growing up was this abridgment by, I want to say author by Wheatley. It was The Adventures of Monkey. It was this sort of smaller version that pulled out just the main core story of Adventure to the West. And it was fantastic. I must have read that thing 110 times before I was 12 years old. But outside of that, from the minute I was old enough to read, I would get those little classics illustrated. And so they had like a page of text and a picture on the other page and all this. And I must have read, I think I probably went through everything they had by Wells and Verne and all these adventure writers. And all that just took me straight into when I was older reading things like, The Hobbit and just that classic adventure stuff. But I think once I really kind of came into my own as a reader, I got stuck on Bradbury and that kind of. I love Bradbury. Absolutely fell in love with the Mars books. Mostly it's because his short stories were so good. I loved things like R is for Rocket, and Illustrated Man, Martian Chronicles, all that. It was just so good. And I think because of that, really, I got stuck into short stories. I decided I really loved short stories. So, but yeah, I'm a Bradbury nerd from way back. Probably the highlight of my life was meeting him and getting to talk with him for about 40 seconds. And that was about 30 seconds too long, according to the folks who were watching the line at Dragon Con and were trying to move me on. So, but no, I'm a Bradbury nerd, huge.
Wow, short stories. So someone who, a story that's short, sweet, to the point, doesn't beat around the bush. Great amount of respect for that one. Dramatic pause here. Ray Bradbury. So that's very deep stuff, deep books, for show. What would you say were some of your favorite TV series growing up?
I loved anything that I could get into that was horror, that would give me some horror vibes. Whether that was like reruns of Elvira's movie Macabre or things like Kolchak, The Night Stalker, those kind of things easily. But then I got into a lot of this sort of the American version of the cozy mystery, and that's where you get into things like oh my gosh, I'm just blanking here on it. But where you get into these shows like the Rockford Files and Magnum PI, and I am totally blanking on the one with Stephanie Powers in it now. We're part of the Married Couple, but yeah, that one. But I loved all of these like detective shows that were shown on TV. Basically, those were my two things, like detective and horror. We didn't have the breadth and the width and all of this of variety when I was growing up. I grew up we had 3 channels and that was it kind of days. I'm that old. Yep. And so yeah, I was it was detective in that. Nowadays you can pick your flavor, man. There's all kind of fantasy TV on stuff. We are, we are not hurting for choice now. But yeah, growing up with me, it was detective and horror. Anything I could get that was detective and horror, or detective adjacent. The A-Team was a big favorite. I think the original Fantasy Island was fantastic because about 60% of the times those things were so close to horror that it was great for me growing up. That I really got into those, and those two have really retained. They've really been the biggest things for me. Even as an adult, I still default to horror and detective shows. Only now I'm doing hopefully more sophisticated horror, maybe like, American Horror Story, or, most of the detective shows. My wife and I'll watch them together, and I'll watch a lot of detective shows from around the world. BBC, we watch a lot of French detective shows that come from French TV, German. We've got a streaming service that lets us watch these from around the world, and it's just fantastic to see these different takes on detective work. They're just always so much fun to watch.
Goodness gracious, man! You just ran the gamut of 31 flavors. So, in other words, you just love it when a plan comes together.
I see what you did there.
It works. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So, good picks, though. No, by the way, I think Stephanie Powers was in a TV series called Heart to Heart.
Heart to Heart. That's the one. I just could not. I kept getting lost on the word powers, and I couldn't come up with Heart to Heart. Yeah. All right. That's the one.
Robert Wagner.
Plus, I had a huge crush on her, so
Well, beautiful woman like that. Yeah. Robert Wagner was in that too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was. The other half. I did not have as big a crush on him, though.
No, it's okay. Hey, to each their own, of course. But no, good titles there, man. Good titles. What would you say are some of your favorite movies growing up?
I was a Star Wars guy. I mean, anybody my age was not Star Wars, Jaws. Those were the biggies. I remember being blown away when I was probably about 12 and maybe 11, and my stepdad took me to see the remake of Scarface, and I thought that was fantastic. I thought he's going to get in so much trouble with my mom for taking me to this, but I love those. Those were so good. But yeah, the biggest one, even to this day, I'll watch the original Star Wars: A New Hope, although we just called it Star Wars back in the day, over and over and over again. Those just were fantastic. I loved them. Logan's Run actually was a movie I really loved a lot as a kid. It's funny. Horror movies have always been big too. I watched those, but I didn't start watching them in the movie until I got older and was taking myself to see them because I was the only person in my family who really dug those. So I caught a lot of stuff that, my parents would consider appropriate for me, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I would watch a fool out of Jaws every time I see it. If it's on TV, I'll watch it. If it's, about every other year, I'll just watch it again. I've got the special edition Blu-ray of it, and it's just fantastic. It's one that I discovered later in my 20s that has been a standard go-to for me. I have probably watched it about 60, 70 times now, and that's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Every different way you can watch that movie. It's just awesome. And I'm a sucker for stupid shark movies. I'll watch every stupid shark movie you can throw at me, whether it's Santa Jaws or Sharknado, or even something that tries to be a little bit more serious like Deep Blue Sea. I like fun. I think when I'm watching a movie, to me, it's all about, is it a little bit over the top? Yeah. All right. Then I'm probably going to like it. The more normal, the more mundane it is, the less it is to get me to enjoy it. But yeah, you make it go a little over the top, kind of with either a pulp sensibility or just a total bizarreness. And I'm usually pretty much game for it.
Well, that's good. You've taken your first steps into a larger world.
I have.
So I see. Listen,
and at my age too, it's kind of odd that I wait this late. But yeah.
Yeah. No. It's all good. And the other thing is, as I've gotten older and a little wiser, and I got the gray hairs to prove it. No, you can't because they're in the back. You can't see them. But OG Star Wars, that first film, man, it's gotten better with age for me. Like every time I watch it, it's just so much fun to watch. You know what's coming, but for the billionth time, but you don't care because it's just enjoyable. And as a lot of people have stated over the many years it's been out, it's been almost 50 years. It's a good example of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell.
Absolutely.
It's really well put together. It's well structured, right? Well crafted. I think the acting is solid. And let's not forget, Alec Guinness is the only person in the history of Star Wars ever be nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in a Star
That's
and
right.
for his performance in a Star Wars movie. So let's not forget about that, folks. So,
Yeah.
see, fun fact. And
Good to know.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite character. So Alec Guinness is a badass. So yeah,
Oh, Alec Guinness was great in that.
he's the man.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite Star Wars figures growing up. I must have lost his lightsaber on a daily basis. So,
Now we're talking about the original Kenner figures, right? Yeah, we're going way back.
yeah, I've got my original box, like the
Do
whole
you?
original first run. They're all mangled now.
Oh,
They're not in
well.
any kind of condition to sell. But yeah, it's great. I love those things. Those were great. I never played with them right. I would always take the little cloak off the Jawa, and I would put it on Walrus Man, and he would be the evil wizard that suddenly everybody had to go storm the Fisher Price castle and save Princess Leia because I was nothing if not wrapped up in the fairy tale hero. So
Okay.
they would have their own little hero's journey. I was telling my own stories, but I did it with my action figures.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure the Walrus Man was thinking, he doesn't like you. I'm sorry. I don't like you either.
I think he was just happy with all the times he got to be solo with Princess Leia, but that's
Yeah. But let's not forget, he has a Descentines on 12 systems. I'll be careful. You'll be dead. Anyway, sorry, I can quote that movie all day, son, because I love that movie.
there you go.
I love that movie so hard. And the OG trilogy is beloved by millions, if not billions, of people worldwide, and for good reason too. Let's not forget about that. Once again, we are here with the great award-winning author Sean Taylor on this episode of Van Dyke Quote, and Star Wars superfan too, which is there's nothing wrong with that. If you have any questions for him, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you're joining this live or on the replay, thank you so much for doing so. If you don't mind, just a little bit of rapid fire here. Favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh, New Hope.
Yeah, that's the OG. Not even okay.
That's
So you're one of the few people
I'm
who's
all
willing
about
to.
that first one. That was a perfect film.
Yeah, you're one of the few people who's willing to admit I like the first one more, and not because everyone says Empire.
I don't dig that quite so much because Empire, I think at the time, the fact that it ended on the cliffhanger just blew it for me. I really did. The first one was such a perfect movie. It had the beginning, the middle, the end. Everything. Yep. It's a textbook example of it's a mythological tale. It's Jason and the Argonauts in space. It's all So
all good. Favorite line in a Star Wars movie?
It's I'm gonna come out with a cliche. I'd like to think I'm classic, but I'm probably just cliched, and these aren't the droids you're looking for. I use that all the time.
These aren't the books you're looking for. No, I'm just kidding.
These are the books you're looking for.
That's right. Yeah, and then you use this
an award-winning sales technique, but it doesn't usually work that way.
It's okay. No, it's a good line. These aren't the droids. You can go about his business. Move along. It's a good one. They're all good ones. There's really no bad ones, really. I mean,
yeah, that's a quotable movie.
There's no right or wrong way to answer the question. Favorite Star Wars character?
Lando Calrissian.
How you doing, yo, pirate? So good to see you.
I love Lando. He was so conflicted, and even as a kid, I dug that.
He wasn't he? Turning on Han in the beginning of the movie, and then he kind of like helps him out at the end, though.
Yeah, I just liked Lando. I think he was a cool guy.
And he wore a cape. He had a cape.
And you got to be Billy D. Williams to pull off a cape like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't do it. I've tried.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is difficult to pull off a cape like that. My kids just laugh at me. My wife laughs at me. It's kind of embarrassing all around. But, I have given up officially as of 2 days ago.
Okay, because I was gonna say he's done all he can. He's done all he could. He's done all he can, but he's sorry, but he's got his own problems. So it's just one of those. Yeah, you're a real hero, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Goodness gracious, Lando's got some cool lines too. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the way he picks up. I mean, excuse me for saying this, but the way he picks up women and he tries to pick up, Leia. You look absolutely beautiful. You truly belong here with us amongst the clouds. Yeah, it's just come on. It's so suave. It's so suave.
He's got what the kids call Riz, right? He's got it going on, man.
Yeah. He's good. He's just. But the one thing that always bothered me about this situation is this deal's getting worse all the time. The deal just gets worse every single time he walks through the door.
Yeah,
it
does.
Honestly, it's just one of those things here. Let's see. Acres of Movies is here. They say hello and thanks. I'm just stopping by for the night. I just want to say hello to everybody and thanks. Love Stacy. Her name is Stacy. If you were stuck on a train for 8 hours, what movie would you have them play?
Ooh! If I was stuck on so it'd have to play over and over again, I assume.
On the train
if
ride,
I'm there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh man, that's you know what? It's going to be an oddball choice because it's one I can always go back to and watch, and it's The Terror with Jack Nicholson and Boris Karloff.
Oh my God, that way out of left field.
Isn't that out of left field after talking about Star Wars? That movie is it's so bonkers and it's so beautifully shot, and Jack Nicholson is he chews the scenery on it, and it's such a gorgeous film, and it's so easy to watch. And it's another one that if it's on TV, I'll watch it. And I think I probably came to that movie first through Elvira, watching it on Movie Macabre years and years ago. But yeah, that movie, that's a great one to just kind of dig, because I can really vibe the mood of that film, not just the action and the story, this sort of tragic love ghost story, but it's just got this intense mood that comes from Nicholson chewing the scenery, and just the over the top acting of Boris Karloff and that accent. I mean, he just lays it on thick, and it hits on all the right but it pushes all the right buttons, man.
I was not aware of that. I haven't heard of this one. I'm going to have to sit down and watch this one of these days, because I do respect Boris Karloff as an actor, and also I've been a fan of Nicholson since the masterpiece known as Batman '89. Hit the screens as Joker, as Jack Napier. That luscious tan, those ruby lips, haircut, so natural. Only your Undertaker knows for sure.
He is fantastic, and he's great in this. This is an early film for him. He plays a French lieutenant, I want to say, who has he's left the front lines, and he finds this castle, and there's this woman he's attracted to, and you find out, well, maybe she's not alive, maybe she's a ghost, maybe Boris Karloff killed her, maybe all these different things. It feels like a classic Hammer film, but it isn't. It's such an awesome movie, and the scenery, the filming's beautiful.
Well, man, I got to sit down and watch some of these things. To be perfectly honest with you, gee whiz. When did you decide to become a writer?
I think the world decided to make me a writer when officially in 1991. That's the year I sold my first piece of writing, and that was a magazine article. I did a magazine article about setting up a summer display for bookstores, which was a crazy thing to start with, right? I was working in a bookstore at the time, and I did this display, and my boss sent pictures. Next thing I know, I was writing an article about it. But I had been writing long before then, mostly through college. I did a little bit of writing in high school and before that, but it was really college when I started to really focus on trying to tell stories, and poetry too. I was big on poetry and short stories. And in fact, in college, I really got the bug when I entered a contest. Judith Ortiz Kofer, the poet who wrote the Latin Deli and Ars Poetica. She was judging it, and I won first place. And that was with a story called Cherry Hill. And I think doing that early on, I caught the bug. I don't think I ever hit those heights again to have like a, super award-winning, nationally known, poet, recognize my work like that. But the following year, I actually did get to meet Amy Tan, who was judging, and I got second place that year. So that was nice. It was nice to have folks like Judith Ortiz-Cofer and Amy Tan recognize something and award it. And that was cool. Plus, I got to sit in and listen to Amy Tan read like 3 chapters from the Joy Luck Club, which is another just pivotal moment as a writer, being able to sit down and listen to her read.
Wow, I know I may be a day late and $1 short, but hey, congratulations on all those awards when you were a youngin'.
I know, right?
I know. All that jazz back in '91. In '91, a little indie film came out that blew up the box office at the time, and that probably would have been Point Break with Swayze and Keanu Reeves. Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, good old Keanu Reeves. That was and this, now Keanu's all the rage, and Swayze's Swayze. Yeah, Swayze's it's hard to top anything other than, after Roadhouse for Swayze, right?
I suppose so. I believe it was Was it 91? Yeah, it was, because Laura Petty, who was in that movie as a love interest, later on went on to become Kit Keller in A League of Their Own in '92. So
see, I know her from Tank Girl.
Yeah, most people.
I think of Petty, I think of Tank Girl. I'm like,
yeah, 99% of people do. But when I think of Lori Petty, I'm thinking of Kit Keller, the kid sister of Dottie Hinson, the Queen of Diamonds from A League of Their Own, which is the greatest, one of the greatest sports movies of all time. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, right?
I've seen it, and now this is where I'll come in. You talk about my 31 flavors of genre, right? My least favorite genre in reading, movies, TV, anything is sports movies. And I don't know why that is. It just, outside of the original Rocky, sports movies, I can't deal with it. Nope, there was one, The Longest Yard, the original The Longest Yard. I liked that one. But yeah, other than that, man, that's the one genre that I really don't do, and probably would never write worth a crap either. I would try and be like, no, I just don't feel it here, No,
it's really understandable. Some genres are good for some writers, and some other genres may not be, and that's okay. Everybody's different. Everyone's got their own little niche or a thing that they enjoy writing in, so to speak, right? I mean, that's one way. That's one way of putting it. Wow, became a writer in the great decade known as the '90s. I was there. I should know that. What are some of the biggest rewards for you about being a writer? What do you think?
Okay, this is the biggest one is by far meeting Ray Bradbury. As cool as it was to meet Amy Tan and Judith Ortiz-Cofer and all this, because I'm such a Bradbury fan, when I got to meet him at Dragon Con, that was the epitome of cool. That's the most important 40 seconds in my life as a writer. I met him, and the only thing I could find that day to go get signed was a ratty paperback copy of The Illustrated Man, and that's really not what I wanted to get signed. I was trying to find this copy of Wonder magazine that I had that had run a reprint of his article, Mr. Electrico, about his discovery and his joy of reading and of science fiction and all of this stuff, right? And he's talking about it through the lens of this like a fortune teller that you put your quarter into, or dime, or whatever it is back in the day in his time, and then you would get your fortune out of it. And it's called Mr. Electrico. And so I was trying to find that article, and I could not. And I told him that when I got there. I was like, so Mr. Bradbury, I really wanted to get you to sign this copy of Mr. Electrico, because that article really just, it helped me identify with you, and I understood exactly what you were going through and how, science fiction and all this would change your life. Because remember, I was reading all those classics illustrated things, or illustrated classics, not the comic book version, but the printed version of Wells and Verne and all that. So like my steady diet was science fiction, action science fiction. And so I told Ray Bradbury this, and he stops signing the book that I'd handed him, Illustrated Man. He looks up and he's like, and he kind of nods at me and he looks, he says, I can't even find my copy of that article. He said, I know it's in the basement somewhere in a box. I'm going to have to go down and look for it. And so we got to talking about that article, and it felt like, 4 seconds later, it was probably almost a minute, about 40 seconds, like I said. And the his guard dog at Dragon Con starts nudging me along. Hey, we need to keep moving. Or you keep moving. And he goes, hang on a minute. And he stops to finish talking to me. So he tells the guy who's supposed to monitor the line, just so we can finish talking about this article. And like, that is the big moment for me, was really just talking to Ray Bradbury and him stopping the line to talk to me. The next big moment for me is probably going to be when I won that award Judith Ortiz-Cofer was the winner. And it was a big thing because it kind of gave me that courage to push on when I was a young writer. I was writing literary fiction at the time. The story Cherry Hill was basically what it was to grow up in the South. It was very much stuck in Southern fiction, that kind of thing. But even then, it was already dealing with a lot of the same issues that I write about now, which is how do you face change? How do you deal with change in a place, right? Because it was about a white sheriff in a predominantly white area who was determined to protect a black child who was being accused of rape. And the more and more, now I go back and I go, it's got the white savior trope all over it. But then I tied it in with family and how the reason this guy was important to find in the first place for the black kid who's doing his doctoral studies, and to find the story, is because the guy was actually his great grandfather, and through the family lineage. And so the fact that we're all tied together, all of those kind of things, it kind of reinforced it. The fact that story won, it let me know I was on the right path. It let me know I could write, which was fun. It was nice to have somebody acknowledge, hey, you're okay at this thing, which is pretty cool, because you get tired of, a lot of time as a writer, as an indie writer, you feel like you're writing in a void because there's not a lot of, feedback, right? You're always either begging for people to leave reviews or because, or something like that. And so it was nice to see some kind of verbal reinforcement that you were moving in the right direction and you actually had some clue what you were doing.
My goodness. So the biggest thing I've learned from this is, 2 words: Ray Bradbury. Just focus on. Just a little.
Did I mention I was a huge Ray Bradbury nerd? I am.
Yeah, I think you may have mentioned that earlier on in this. Listen. None of there's anything wrong, because I've heard his name come across my desk when I was in school. We read 1 or 2 of his books, whatever it was. So I get it. To a certain extent, I get it. I never met the man, so I can't say what my interactions have been with this person. But even so, clearly Ray Bradbury has had an influence on writers all over the world, including yourself. So,
oh yeah,
good stuff.
I went back to follow the people he had read that he said he enjoyed, and that's where I discovered how much I enjoyed reading like Edgar Rice Burroughs and H. Rider Haggard.
That's another one,
and that got me going in this pulp direction as well, yes. Right? Because those stories were very much pulpy. They didn't, they didn't tie in with my modern sort of sensibilities or contemporary sensibilities, because as a writer, I'm very much about things like inclusion. I'm very much about trying to write from other perspectives to make the heroes not necessarily look like me. I remember the first time I wrote a story and somebody said, it's really nice to have another woman writing superheroes. And I apologized that I was a man. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm a man. They're like, really? And it was the neatest thing that somebody would actually think I was a woman doing that. So, but I went back and started reading all these things that I was seeing that he read growing up, because obviously, as old as I am, I'm still not old enough to have read the original pulps, except for the ones I've gone back and bought now at exorbitant prices. But yeah, I don't think you can underestimate the value, or overestimate. Sorry, I don't think you could overestimate the value and the input, the influence anyway, that Ray Bradbury has had on me.
Right on. hear where you're coming from. For sure, yeah, lots of stories, lots of influences out there. Completely, what am I trying to say here? Completely understandable. Acres of Movies has made a lot of comments. So I want to make sure I get to the one. Let me see here. Boy, they're really going into their own story here. Let's see. Acres of Movies says, great to hear Sean and his perspective. I met Ray Bradbury back in the year of 1994, became very close friends with him, brought him back into the studio fold when it comes to like
Ooh,
movie studios and that sort of deal.
nice.
And one of the questions that they bring up is, who would you cast into Something Wicked This Way Comes if they remade it?
Oh man, that would be awesome. Well, if I wanted it to absolutely, be a hit, I would probably find some way to put Johnny Depp in it somewhere. But man, it makes me wish Tim Curry would be able to do it. I think Tim Curry would be fantastic. I'd love to see, I'd love to see nobodies that nobody's ever seen, new actors cast in for the kids' roles. Honestly, I would like to see like one major lead actor that everybody knew, and like a Curry or a Depp or something, who just is used to playing the weird. And then everybody else, I would just prefer to be nobody. Not nobody. That's an awful way to say that, Sean, because but to be unknowns at the currently unknowns, we'll call them. I think that would be, the way to go. And that way it would have this sort of Goonies vibe. Then you could find out 20 years later, oh yeah, I remember that kid from the remake that Sean Taylor cast of Something Wicked This Way Comes.
There you go. Cue the Goonies theme song by Cyndi Lauper.
They're good enough for me.
Good, you is fun, that boy. You know what I mean? That movie turns 40 this year, believe it or not. The Goonies turns the big. I know. I'm sorry.
Let me go have a heart attack. I'll be right back.
I'm sorry to make you feel younger than you already are here, Sean.
That's right.
But it turns the big 4-0 later this year. So get ready. There's going to be showings of the film in theaters across the country. So get ready for that one. Buy some tickets. Hashtag not a sponsor of this show, but if they want to be, give me a call. Maybe. With that being said, Acres Movie says, do you like John McDonald or Donald Westlake?
I like them both. If I had to choose between them, it's Westlake all the way.
Okay.
Westlake, I think, is just he's amazing. He's just got this knack for cool characters that they stand out in a way, and they're memorable. They don't fit the norm of what you think of in that kind of detective-y, pulpy, noirish inspired kind of story. He always takes it and he goes, they're like this, but no, they're different, and he veers you off. And I love that about Westlake's character. I think probably my favorite is Somebody Owes Me Money from him. That was published. I don't know if it was originally published somewhere else, but the edition I got was the version published by Hard Case Crime, my absolute favorite publisher to buy from. But yeah, I think Westlake's amazing. I mean, there's a reason he is as popular as he is. The only guy who even comes close to him, the only two guys, I think, two writers who come close at this point would be probably Ed McBain, Evan Hunter, or Lawrence Block. Those guys just really get it too. And those are probably my three, favorite contemporary, crime writers nowadays. Although I have to say, Krista Faust is quickly, just really getting up there too. She's fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to her new novel, The Get Off, the final in the Angel O'Dare books that began with Money Shot. So also published by Hard Case Crime. Oh, I'm becoming an ad for Hard Case Crime. Anyway, but yeah, Lawrence Block is great. Ed McBain, but between McDonald and Westlake, I have to go with Westlake. Although I do really like McDonald, he's probably a top 10. He's just not a top 5 for me.
Ah, I see. Now we got the rankings coming into play here, folks.
You should see the list I make of rankings. That's the one thing. if you see me start posting things on Facebook that are not rankings, you'll know I've been kidnapped and to send the police, because everything I do is rankings.
Oh my. Well, in that case, don't forget that you're watching this great episode of Freewheeling Fridays with best-selling writer Sean Taylor here on the show. Do not forget to like and share this with everyone you know. And if you're joining this live or what is known as a replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for Sean, or maybe some of those rankings are, let us know in the comments.
That's right.
Or the chat. Let's see. Acres of Movies says, let's see. Oh, boy. Where do we want to go with this? Oh, they ask, would you want to write a screenplay for a Bullet for Cinderella adaptation? Akiva Schaffer, or maybe even Akiva Goldsman, is not doing what needs to be done with it as of yet.
Probably, there are, well, I'm not going to turn down a writing gig. But there are so many other things I'd rather write a screenplay for first that I think are more deserving. But yeah, I'm just not as familiar with that one. But there's so many other that are so well deserving. I think the Krista Faust novel I mentioned earlier, the Money Shot, that deserves a movie. And if Krista certainly wasn't feeling up to writing a screenplay, I'd definitely jump into that one in a heartbeat. Any Westlake, any McDonald, even his stuff would be so easy to take from book to screenplay. But yeah, the Cinderella thing, maybe not so much for me. But again, I'd never turned down a writing job.
Sure. I mean, what if Del Rey Books calls you tomorrow and say, hey, we want you to write a Star Wars novel?
I would say, hey, that's great. Now I can join the ranks of the several friends of mine who have written Star Wars novels, and I could write me a Star Wars novel. I would love to do. I think there's so much of that world that can be explored, and I'm tired that I am so glad that hopefully the Skywalker story is over and we can move beyond that. Like, the one thing I want to, like, why are they not pursuing other genres? Like, they did a heist movie, right? And that was probably the best Star Wars movie to come out in years, when they did basically Ocean's 11 in space. But I want to see like a horror movie, have a force sensitive person who doesn't realize it land on Dagobah, and suddenly they start seeing ghosts everywhere, right? But it's a horror film. I think something like that would be amazing. There's so much you can do in that world. Have, people marooned on in the part of Tatooine where there isn't anybody, and have a Robinson Crusoe kind of tale. They got so pigeonholed into exploring the Skywalker saga because that's what started it. I get it. But I'm not a guy who's into epics, and don't try to give me a Game of Thrones thing, because I'm going to tune out after like 2 books. So I don't like to see the same people featured over and 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 over again. So I always want to see something new. I'd want to take my 31 flavors of genre and then sort of inject that into the Star Wars universe, really. But yeah, give me a go on a Star Wars set horror movie, and I'd be all over that.
All right. Well, the force is strong with this one. You never know what can happen. Hey, flip side of the coin, though, what are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Sticking with it is the hardest thing for me, because, like I say, I work full time. I'm a teacher. I'm currently working on my master's on the science of reading, which is so much fun, but it's a lot of work. And I am, just so much going on, and it's hard to find time to write and to really stick to it. So the schedule itself is what throws me off. I end up writing a lot more nonfiction than fiction, because I have the writer's blog that I do, Bad Girls, Good Guys, and Two-Fisted Action. I have that, and that keeps me writing on a regular basis, doing either tutorials or movie reviews for writers, all based on movies that focus in on writers, or have a writer as a main character, and things like that. It keeps me writing, and those eventually turn into books when I collect all that stuff together. But none of that stuff is writing fiction. And so for my fiction writing, the hardest thing is just making the time to do it. I'm a big advocate of like writers retreats, and I go down to my grandmother's house. She's been dead for several years now, but the house is still in the family, and I love to go down there and visit. And I'll spend a week 2 weeks, just pounding out as many words as possible because it's the middle of nowhere. I could barely get a cell phone signal kind of thing. So for me, yeah, staying with it. That's the hardest part of writing, making that time, because I'm not a good scheduler. I'm not a good person when it comes to like being responsible about things like, oh, I have a writing schedule today and I need to put my butt in the chair for 1 hour in front of the computer and that's not me. You won't see that. No, if you find that happening to me again, that's not me. Somebody has put a pod person. Just look for me to be somewhere else. Yeah, sticking with it, being responsible, in terms of that schedule. That's the hardest part for me. I write by inspiration. When I feel it, I write. And that's a good way to tick off your editors and your publishers, by the way, in case anybody's wondering. But hey, that's another bridge I'll cross when I burn it.
Right. Absolutely. And it's funny you bring that up because it actually segues into our next question, which in this case is, what advice would you give to aspiring writers out there?
My biggest, the biggest advice I used to give was just write something. Now I'm going to say, be yourself, find your voice, whatever it is that makes you excited to write that. The stuff I'm writing now is the stuff that excites me. And, I want to tell those stories that nobody else is telling. You had Bobby Nash on here before, and Bobby and I created a character called Rick Ruby. And we basically took this 30s gumshoe character, but then we created this world around him that really feels like what I want to write. And it's this white detective in a black world, and all of the people who inspire him are black, and all of his girlfriend is black, and they know they can't have they're just terribly in love, but they know that in the 1930s, in the city, they are not going to ever be able to really have to have and to hold, for better or for worse, for the rest of our lives kind of relationship. And you almost see that kind of doom in their eyes. But so you've got all of that world going on, but in the middle of that, you still get to tell these hard-boiled, noirish inspired stories. And I love that. So write what you want to write, what you feel compelled to write. Be yourself, no matter how weird it is. If you get an idea and you want to tell the story of whatever, do it. The stuff that I love to read is the stuff that's just, it's indefinable. Kurt Vonnegut, Bradbury, if you say, what did Ray Bradbury write? And people go, well, science fiction. And I said, well, yeah, but what about The Illustrated Man? What about The October Tree? What about Something Wicked This Way Comes? Well, I guess that was horror, or was it fantasy? And he wrote everything. He even wrote a detective story. He did several of those. And another of my favorite writers, Kurt Vonnegut, if you really pigeonhole him, you can say science fiction, but was it? It was like literary stuff, but science fiction and weird drama and just over the top farce. And, so write what you write, write what makes your crazy little heart happy. And if you do that, you'll keep writing.
Words to live by. The more you know. See, there you go. Exactly. Where's the rainbow? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joshing you. But still, no, it is great advice, and I appreciate that. Yeah, write what you want to write. Have fun with it. Don't worry about what's going on behind the scenes. What are the rules? Just write what you want to write. I get it.
Write the stuff that makes your crazy little heart happy.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, exactly. Because there's so many different genres you can pick from. Speaking of which, I do have an example for you who may be watching or listening to this at home, and for you as well, Sean, some examples of your past works. Bad girls, good guys, but two-fisted action. So I'm just curious, elevator pitch, and then how did this all come about?
This is a collection of all the pulp stories I have written for other publishers, as well as one brand new story that never made it into another anthology. These were all stories that I did for publishers like Pro Se Press, and who else was in Airship 27. I did stories for them. Those Rick Ruby stories I was talking about, they're in here. This is just a collection of all of my pulp stories. It's got a little bit of, as you can see, the cards across the front. You've got your flying ace, you've got your detective, you got your jazz man, and in one of them you've got your writer, because in one of the stories, F. Scott Fitzgerald is a character and an assassin. I'll let you figure that one out and read it when you do. But yeah, this is me writing my over the top, have fun with it pulp stories.
All right, I got to get this one, man. I like the cover,
and I
and I
mentioned
like pulp
one of my favorite publishers, right? Hard Case Crime. If you look at that cover, Charles Ardai, I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm pronouncing it right, gives me a nice blurb. He's the publisher behind Hard Case Crime. Escapist fiction the way it used to be done, which is cool because that's the voice I was trying to channel. So take the old and make it new.
Well done, well done. Congratulations. Look forward to reading this this bad boy here, because I do like pulp stories and I like pulp characters. So kind of like a, whether it's the detective, the femme fatale, the film noir, the gumshoe going after the big case, that kind of thing. Because everyone asks the question, what exactly is it when it comes to pulp stories? And you look at them and you say it's the stuff that dreams are made of. So
yeah, it is, and it changes so much, right? Because pulp started as just purely because of the paper that they put it on. The pulps versus the slicks, right? The slicks were your fancy stories where, you might find an F. Scott Fitzgerald or Ernest Hemingway story in a slick or something like that. But you would find, the stories of men landing on planets with women with bird wings. Those would be in the pulp magazines, right? And they would usually be written at a lower level of people might say quality. I would say literariness, I guess. But the definition of pulp has changed so much, because like stuff that didn't appear in those pulp magazines might have been inspired by the pulps, and that's where you start getting some of these novels, and it moves on, like these 1950s and 60s detective novels. The ones I'm talking about, the little thin novels, right? Those little thin ones on the spinner racks, and and they had all these great lurid covers. And that's where you found your John McDonald's and your Donald Westlakes and all that stuff. And they're great, but pulp became a way of telling stories, it's a sort of shorthand, right? Instead of it being these stories that were published in this time, in this format, it came to be a way of thinking about stories and telling stories. And that's what I like about pulp. I think you can take pulp. And Derek Ferguson, who some of you, if you've read my stuff, you've probably read Derek Ferguson. If you've read Bobby's stuff, you've probably read Derek Ferguson, particularly his Dylan novels. And Derek and I always love talking about how we thought that you could do literary pulp. You could take these quality things that make a story literary: theme, mood, tone, characterization, symbolism, metaphor, and you could put that into a pulp tale. A pulp tale does not, it's a basic story in the sense that it's an A plus B equals C story, but it doesn't have to be a basic story. It can be a basic story that you put all this other stuff in, because let's face it, a writer's toolbox, you don't get a different toolbox just because you're writing horror, because you're writing pulp, or because you're writing fantasy, or because you're writing literary work. So it's all the same toolbox. And so if I want to write a literary pulp story in which the characters are deeper and more than one note paper doll cutouts, or there's, a central metaphor in the thing, that's perfectly cool. And I think it can be done. And I think it elevates pulp writing. And I think that's why folks like Ed McBain and Donald Westlake and Lawrence Block, and to some degree Stephen King, he's really kind of a pulp horror writer sometimes, too. And they elevate it with literary technique. And I think that's changed, but they still, at their heart, they tell pulpy stories.
Well put. So many different writers, so many different genres, so little time.
I know, right?
I know, that's what they, I learned that. Once again, this goes back to what we were talking about with Nicholson's performance in Batman 89. He says, so much to do in so little time. Photos. And then he's looking at, pictures of Knox and stop the press. Who is that? It's Vicky Vale. She's the photographer who's working with Knox. That girl
You say that, and all I can now hear is the Prince song in my head.
Oh, well, it's,
Matt
party
Dance.
man.
Who's that? Vicky Vale.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's right. It's heavy influence on that soundtrack. There's no doubt. I mean, you heard Party Man, you heard Trust
Oh,
within the movie. I mean, come on.
yeah, it's amazing. One of the best soundtracks ever, I think. It's
Mm-hmm.
totally underrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And Batman '89 is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, Sean. So you're welcome.
There you
With,
go. Great
with
film.
yeah. Before I share with you and with you who may be watching or listening to this episode of Freewheeling Fridays right now, more examples of past works done by Sean Taylor, we want to take this moment and say we want to thank all the great, wonderful indie creators that are out there. Whether you're a writer, an artist, producer, all this kind of stuff that you're doing, we do our best to support as many of them as we can. So in that case, I'd like to share this with Sean. I want to share this with you who may be watching this episode of Freewheeling Fridays from the comfort of your own home or office. Do not forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. And if you're joining us live or on the replay, thank you for doing that. If you have any questions for Sean, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be more than happy to take those as they come in. But without any further ado, we'd like to support others such as these.
It's Flip City Magazine, The Parodies, Special Edition, with savage send-ups of The Walking Dead, Star Trek Picard, Stranger Things, The Mandalorian, Guardians of the Galaxy, and more from the first 4 years of Flip City. Get Flip City The Parodies free when you subscribe in print at flipcitymag.com. The world's best satire magazine, and never, ever woke.
Welcome to Based on a True Story, Volume 6, Tales of the Underworld, where true crime collides with the furry, funny, and fierce world of the Dust Bunny Mafia. This brand new 32-page comic reimagines real mafia legends, Mad Dog Cole, John Gotti, and more, through the eyes of our animal mobsters. Think The Godfather meets Looney Tunes, packed with action, humor, and full-color storytelling.
Boy, there's an interesting collection of writers, creators there for you. Isn't that right, Sean?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Mix it up. Keep the weirder the better. Keep it going. Keep it weird. Make it weird. Make it weirder.
Yeah. Woody's here. He says hello to everybody and thank you for supporting us. And he also says love Dust Bunnies. Yeah. Dust bunnies were mentioned there the other a few moments ago there. So you're absolutely right. And then Acres of Movie says, saw a Flip City program the other day on this very YouTube channel, which is the Madness Entertainment Group. Yes, you did. There is a plethora of of content on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, tell all your friends about it, check it out. I think you will enjoy it. Well, with that being said, goodness gracious, so much content, so little time. Well, how about this? Let's talk about now. There's a great song out there called "I Need a Hero" by Bonnie Tyler. But you wrote something called
"Show Hero Till the End of the Night."
Exactly.
Yep, great song.
Exactly.
Yep.
Great song, and a good movie too. Footloose. So, show me a hero.
This actually comes from a quote. Yeah. This title comes from a quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald that says, "Show me a hero, and I'll write you a tragedy." Because I think I'm one of those weird literary snots who thinks that we don't learn anything when things are happy. So we have to, at best, we get bittersweet endings if we want to learn anything, or we have tragedies like Romeo and Juliet, right? The Capulets and the Montagues finally learned something because the kids died. They never would have learned it any other way, right? And I hate that. That's a very cynical view of life, but I'm a cynic. But Show Me a Hero. This is all, believe it or not, superhero stories. Years and years ago, I wrote for a superhero magazine called Cyber Age Adventures. And we tried to take real world, everything from like real world physics and real world characterization and apply it to superhero stories. And it must have worked because right out of the gate, we won the very first Writer's Digest annual award for zine publishing, which was fantastic. In fact, the president of the company, a guy named Frank Fradella, was on the board for that first year because of that win. And it was fantastic. But so we took this little crazy idea that people were doing lately. We just basically took the comic book out of the superhero. So you weren't telling a comic book story, not because we didn't want to do comic books. We love comic books, but we wanted to tell stories that you could only tell in prose. And none of us could draw worth a flip. So we used what we had. That was prose. And so I did a whole bunch of stories for that magazine, and this collects those. And I was very, very fortunate to get some wonderful people to read through it and give me some great advanced blurbing on this. Like one of my favorite comic book writers of all time, Dwayne McDuffie, the late Dwayne McDuffie. He actually wrote the foreword for this for me. And at the time when he did that, he was the story editor for Justice League Unlimited, the cartoon. So that was fantastic. I also had some folks like Dan Jurgens, who will be forever known as the man who killed Superman. He did a blurb. Tom Brevoort, whether I'm pronouncing his name correctly or not, since the two of us never talked, but he was at the time the editor at Marvel. So yeah, so wonderful folks to tell me that whatever we were doing was right. But those are all superhero stories that have a very literary sensibility to them. It's very much in line with what you would see on a lot of the superhero shows now, only we were doing it almost 30 years ago. So.
Oh, that's a long time. A long time.
A long time ago.
Long time.
I still remember.
Yeah. There it is. So you're getting there. By the way, the lovely Sherry says hello to everybody. Good to see you, Sherry.
Hello, Sherry.
Well, in your neck of the
lovely
woods.
Sherry.
Yeah, lovely. Not just any Sherry, the lovely Sherry. Yeah, that's a
lovely Sherry. Not to be confused with that other lovely Sherry.
Right. Yeah.
Sherry.
It's a bit of a different story over there, isn't it, Sean? So
over where I am, it's always a different story.
Just a tad. But no, that's great stuff. Show me a hero. I'll write you a treasure. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like it. So we've done a pulp. We got a little bit of super or hero type stories. This one here, A Crowd in Babylon and Other Dark Tales. Boy, this is taking me to Tales of the Crypt meets.
This is very much Tales of the Crypt meets
Twilight Zone. What do we got here? How did this happen?
You just nailed it right there. Basically, this is all a collection of horror stories. It's horror as seen through. Horror to me comes from those weird, vicious underbelly of regular life. So that the most creepy places in the world are those small towns where everybody loves each other and they wave, and the mayor, the mayor knows you by name, but really, the woman down the street actually has corpses in the basement, and that's real horror to me where it comes in. And so this basically is like, what do you get if you cross Stephen King and Flannery O'Connor? Or, it's sort of stories in the vein of Shirley Jackson, that kind of thing, or just really, really weird out there story. There's a time travel story where a woman, to get revenge on the woman who cheated with her husband, she goes back every year since he invented time travel, and she kills her 1 year earlier. Now she's 14 or 15, and she's like, I don't know, I don't want to do this anymore, but I have to be a completist. Just all kind of neat stuff, but it's all horror stories. This one's my horror collection. It's probably one of my favorite books that I've done.
Wow. The horror. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I had to do it once.
That's right.
Makes complete sense. I think you brought this up before, but just for curiosity's sake, favorite scary movie?
Ooh, the one that actually scared me. Is the TV, made-for-TV miniseries of Salem's Lot. If you've ever seen that, there's a scene where the vampires come back and they scratch at the window, right? Let me in. I'm your friend. Let me in, all this. And the room I had at the time, I was, 9 when this thing came out? And my parents let me watch it, or I snuck out and watched it anyway, something, I don't know. But I don't remember. I've slept since then, as the saying goes. But the room that I had been a back porch at one point, and it had been walled in. And from about a third of the wall up was louver windows that you would crank the little crank, and the windows would louver out and louver in. So there were glass on 3 walls, and the trees growing outside that room, if the wind blew, it would go. The trees just rub it in it. So I watched Salem's Lot. I watched little kids floating around on the window, and I go to bed, and all I hear is. I didn't sleep for 3 days. That scared the fool out of me. That was great. It was this wonderful thing where real life echoed what I saw in that movie, or at least echoed the sounds of it. The only other one that really scared me in that sense, that made it kept showing up in my dreams, was that weird skittery motion from the American version of The Ring. And it was and I'd seen it done in other movies. It wasn't the first time I'd seen that done, but somehow in that movie, maybe it was a blending of that sort of technology with the Japanese ghost sensibility. I don't know. But I woke up for like 3 weeks just seeing that image of Sadako. 1 minute she's crawling out of the TV, the next minute she's in front of you, and there was no break in between it. It's like your TV skipped. And that was just creepy. But yeah, those two probably are the 2 movies that really creep me out the most.
My goodness. I haven't seen Salem. Well, they did a remake of Salem's Lot many years later on TNT. It was a miniseries with Rob Lowe. I don't know if you caught that.
Apparently Stephen King likes that one better, I think, but it may be truer to the book, but the other one it was so creepy.
All right. You described it perfectly, so those are images going to keep me up tonight. Thanks, Sean.
There you go. That's what I'm here for. It means I'm doing my job.
Gee willikers. Woody says, McDuffie and Capulets. It's too much Shakespeare for me.
Yeah.
That's all right. You'll get over it. And he also said that is some really disturbing cover art for the Babylon that we just saw.
Isn't it? Oh my gosh. I found that image and I took it. And this is why I was so glad I was lucky and fortunate enough to learn how to do digital design and through Photoshop, because I took that and blended those suckers together in a way that I wanted something that tied into the title story, A Crowd in Babylon. And I saw that image and went, ooh, that's it. They're all one person, blurred, blobbed together. And oh my God, it was creepy. Yeah, I loved it. And that cover sells that book right off the table every time.
There you go. One of the goals, sell as many copies of our books and stories as possible. You
can't look at that book and not go, horror.
Must be something else. Or maybe not. Cut down on the caffeine there, buddy. But anyway,
I'm clearly a romance novel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking, when I looked at it tonight, I was thinking to myself, this has got to be a romance novel, right? No. It's
a romance, yes.
Exactly.
It's a romance between one man and the macabre.
exactly. I was just being humorous. Any other special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you are there as a vendor or attendee?
Ooh, man, so many wonderful events. But that's where I met all of my favorite people, right? That's where I met Dwayne McDuffie for the first time. I was working for Shooting Star Comics at the time. I was the editor for the comic book company. And Dwayne came by just to visit us and wish us good luck. And, I'm 5'6", if I'm wearing the right shoes, and Dwayne's like 10'4". And so I have this great picture of me standing in a chair and we're looking eye to eye. But so I met Dwayne at conventions. He was fantastic. Dwayne recognized. Then when I saw him like 2 years later at New York Comic Con, I'm just walking around here. Hey, Sean. I'm like, who knows me in New York? I turn around and it's Dwayne. Like we'd met once in San Diego at San Diego Comic Con, and next thing I know, he remembers me and he's calling me out. And it's like, hey, come here, and stuff. And that was so cool. I met Peter David. At the time, I think he was writing Supergirl for DC. He may have been doing Fallen Angel. I don't know at that point. But yeah, I met him and we talked for a bit. I had interviewed him for a old website I used to do based on DC Teen Heroes. And so I had met him through that. But we'd never met face to face. And so I got to meet him, and he was another creator who just treated me like a peer, and it was wonderful. And I think those are the best stories that come from conventions to me, when I met my heroes and they turned out to treat me like a peer. I honestly have not met a lot of my heroes, my writing heroes, period. But then the ones that I have met, most of those that I've met have turned out to be super cool and treated me like a peer the whole time from day one. And so that's probably the biggest memory, is just, again, it reinforced that maybe I know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm in the right place.
Good names too. Peter David, I know that one for sure. Speaking of the characters in DC or Marvel, and in this case, Supergirl for DC, did you ever read Paul Kupperberg's run of Supergirl?
I did. It was pretty good.
That's my favorite.
See, Peter David's run is my favorite. I just love the way he took it. He took that. He took the Matrix character and just ran with it. He always has this way of doing something where, like, people will give him characters that aren't doing well. They like, do something fun with it, and he goes, "Let's get weird." And that's what I like about Peter David. He's like, his whole story is let's get weird, and he took that one and made it weird.
But you said it was a character of the Matrix, right?
The character was called Matrix. It was the Supergirl that came out post-Crisis. That was like a blob that took on human form, and it wasn't actually his cousin Kara, but he fused that character into with a human, Linda Danvers. So he brought that whole character, that post-Crisis character, back into a way that felt to a large part like the pre-Crisis character. And so it was it was neat that he was able to do that.
Oh, okay. All right. Makes sense. I'll have to read that run of Supergirl.
Fantastic run.
Because I do like Supergirl, because my favorite comic book character is, in fact, the House of L himself, Superman. So
there you go.
He's my favorite. He's my number one. So, and I read Daring New Adventures of Supergirl by Paul Kupperberg. I actually had him sign issue number 1 and got it slabbed and graded. First graded comic I ever got.
I have one that was a gift. I normally don't like to slab or grade comics because I like to go back and reread them. And I would be the idiot who opens up a slab just to I wanted to read it again,
Well, with me, I'm pretty good about keeping them closed. And the other thing is about Paul Kupperberg's run of Supergirl, it is available in trade paperback. So I have volumes 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's right. It is.
Which I'm happy that it is, because he also signed my trade paperback. I didn't get that slabbed or anything, but if I wanted to read the Supergirl storyline, I have a backup. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's going to be okay. I'm fine. But don't be alarmed. I'm fine.
Good for you.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, Paul Kupperberg was the first comic writer I had sign a comic book, and I got it graded and slabbed. A friend of mine did it for me at Terrificon in the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
So, because Terrificon's a really big show out there in the state of Connecticut, so it was cool. It was good stuff.
Cool.
And
Yeah, I haven't done that one. I've never been out to Connecticut.
Mhm,
That's actually a state I've never been out to. That's funny. That's one I've never visited in all of my traveling. Maybe
neither have I.
need to make an effort.
Yep, I should too, because my friend goes there every year and he loves Terrificon. So I'd
Okay.
like to go up there and see some big names from Hollywood, of course, but then also the legendary comic book writers and artists that have been around for many, many years. I'd like to get them to sign some stuff of mine, or just meet them and have a conversation with them. So,
Yeah, I love just talking with them.
yeah,
They're such just people, most of the time. Every now and then you get somebody who's kind of a
bad apple.
bit of
Yeah,
an asshole. But
yeah.
yeah, other than
Bad
that,
apples.
yeah,
Yeah.
there are bad apples out there, and some of them are just fun bad apples, like Julie Schwartz.
Oh,
and
really?
Carmine Infantino.
Mm.
When I met them, they were just bitching at each other the whole time, but you could tell they were doing it as best friends. It was like these people had years and years of doing this with each other, and that was their love language, just getting under each other's skin. And you felt like you were watching the old bullpen days just to see that happen. It was a cool moment. But I got to watch a lot of it because at the time Carmine was doing a Supergirl sketch. You see, I brought it right back around. He was doing a Supergirl sketch for me. So yeah.
Really? Ooh, do you still have the sketch? Do you still have it?
I do have that sketch. I'll have to send it to you later once I
Please
track
do.
it down. I'll have it. Yeah.
Please do. I'd love to see it because, like I said, I'm
Yeah.
a big House of L, / Superman fan. So anything from the House of L, whether it's Jor-El, Kal-El, what is it, Zor-El or Kara-El, as she's.
Oh yeah.
She has the most normal sounding name out of everybody on Krypton because Kara, or Kara. Some people pronounce it Kara, others pronounce it Kara. I thought it was Kara, but it actually turns out to be Kara Zor-El. So,
Right.
Interesting. They call her Kara, not Kara? But it's still, more human than, because Kal-El, people are like, what the frack does that mean? On Earth, anyway.
That's right.
For Krypton, it makes sense. But here on Earth, we're thinking to ourselves, Cal what? What is it? I don't get it. But it works. So I'm going to have to look that up and read that. And yes, I've read the Death of Superman storyline. I mean, it's kind of iconic. So
of course, yeah. I actually have a signed version of that from Dan Jurgens. And Dan's an awesome guy. I love Dan. Dan and I almost got to work together on the DC role playing game. I was writing for the Titans book, and he was going to do the art to go with my stuff. It wasn't a comic book, but you know what? It was a chance to work with Dan Jurgens, so I was thrilled. But in the end, it came through because the company that was doing it lost the license. So you win some, you lose some. Sometimes if you lose some, you get a check anyway, a kill fee, and that was a good one. I didn't have to do the work, and I got paid. I liked it. I could get paid kill fees all my life, and never get a publishing credit, but I'd make money. That's weird.
I've never heard of these before. This is new for me. But hey, you learn something new every day, which is what you may be watching or listening to with Freewheeling Fridays. With the guest of honor, Sean Taylor. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you're joining us live or what is known as a replay, thank you so much for doing that. If you have any questions for Sean, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. I mean, is it safe to assume, even though I should never assume anything, but I'm just curious, favorite DC character is Supergirl, or do you have another favorite DC?
No, my favorite DC characters are the Metal Men. I love the Metal Men.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Oh, they're see, we have gold, platinum, lead, tin, iron, mercury. There we go. The robots who each are based in a single metal. I read those books so much growing up, and I collect them now. Those are the prize of my collection. And Metal Men, I learned so many facts about chemistry facts because the writers would weave those in to the book and say, you've got all these little chemistry facts that if as platinum is stretching out, she's talking about how platinum is such a fine metal that if you can stretch it out, and it's as thin as a thread, it could go on for so many miles and all of this, and it was just super cool stuff. And Mercury's always talking about how, he's liquid at certain temperatures. And it was like reading a science book full of superheroes. But then my second favorite at DC is Challengers of the Unknown, because they're just normal folks living in a weird world. And again, my motto is make it weird. So yeah, it was those are probably my two favorite, and they're both old books. But yeah, they each come out and play every now and then. Usually when DC needs to publish something to maintain the copyrights and trademarks, probably, because I can't imagine them ever being big sellers again. But I'd love to see movies with both of them. Those would be movies I'd like to write. So anyway, but yeah, Metal Men, hands down my favorite.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard of any of this. None of these characters before. So
you have to be old.
Yeah, okay, all right, because I'm a little bit young here.
Older.
I'm a little bit young here in the studio. But you know what they say, right? I digress. Favorite Marvel character or characters?
Ooh, favorite Marvel character is probably the Scarlet Witch. I really love the Scarlet Witch. I think she's fantastic. Loved her since before she married Vision to after they destroyed that marriage, destroyed Vision, and loving every issue of her new series that Marvel's doing. Also, Tigra. I love Tigra, and I wish we'd have Tigra show up a lot more in the Marvel universe. But, you got a tiger striped woman in a bikini. I mean, what could go wrong?
Oh boy, it could go in a couple of different directions.
What could go wrong? Oh my God! In this day and age.
I know. In this day and age, it could probably go 50 different ways, and I choose not to go in any one of those directions. So I'll just leave it at that. But
50 Shades of Black and Orange.
I didn't want to go there, but yes. Didn't want to go there, folks. Didn't want to go there. That is not my intention. But I respect the Marvel properties as much as anyone else, or the DC properties and a whole bunch of other comic book publishers, whether it's Image, Boom, there's IDW, for example. There's Valiant. There's Dynamite, if I'm not mistaken, which... If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think of, because I own 3 trade paperbacks featuring this character. I'm just trying to think of who I think it may have been Dynamite. I got 3 trade paperbacks featuring the character of the Shadow. So
that was probably Dynamite's publishing.
I think it was.
Yeah, the Shadow's been done
long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to go with that. I have 3 trade paperbacks featuring the Shadow, and I love the Shadow is my favorite old school pulp character.
Yeah.
So I just love it. I got some of the old school radio programming by Orson Welles on MP3 files or CDs, just to give everyone a little bit more context here. And I like the movie with Alec Baldwin. I mean, he may be in Hollywood prison right now, but the movie that he starred in 30 years ago.
That movie was so good, so much fun.
Pretty good to the character, pretty true to the character too.
Yeah.
So Lamont Cranston, if I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, Lamont Cranston. I
would love to see a Shadow series or a movie. I mean, just either. I want to see a new Shadow. I would love to see a new iteration of the Shadow, because the Shadow it's a great character. It's a fascinating character. And what is it? Orson Welles voiced him on the radio programs way back when. And
they just have to figure out which version they want to do, because the version on the radio, the version from the pulps, the version from the comics, the version.
There's like a handful.
They're different versions. They're different, wholesale. Other than the name being the same, right?
Yeah, there's different iterations.
It's like mystical powers. Sometimes it's just a dude who knows things and can throw his voice. Sometimes,
Yeah, there's several or many different iterations of the Shadow. So,
but that's why these characters are so cool, right? They work in just about any way you want to play them, and that's what makes the old characters like that so fun to play with.
Yeah, that's very true. I forget who wrote the trade paperback that I love the most. I'm trying to think of. Gosh, what's his name? Begins with I can't remember. Sorry, I wish I had the information in front of me. But nonetheless, the Shadow's a great character. Look him up. Listen to some of the old school radio programming. Go check out your local comic shop. Check out the trade paperbacks. Check out the back issues. I actually have a graded one that I bought from my local comic shop. A graded issue #1 from Denny O'Neil, William Kaluta cover. Of the Shadow #1. It was the first DC issue they did. I think it was back in the 70s, I want to say. 73. And I have it graded. I think it's graded at like a 7.8, something like that. Or 7.5, whatever it is. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's pretty good. And I have it. So there you go. That just goes to show you how much of a fan I am of the Shadow Knows.
Yeah. The only graded comic I have is actually Denny O'Neil. So it's a Green Arrow, Green Lantern that he was doing. So
the Hard Traveling Heroes.
Well, it was during Hard Traveling Heroes. That's
right.
Yeah,
dude, that's a great story.
Sadly, it's not the issue about what have you done? You've saved the blue people and the yellow people and the green people.
What about us?
What have you done to the black people? That's the one I wish I had.
Ooh, okay, fair enough. But that's a good storyline, though. I have the ultimate. What is it called? The deluxe hardback edition that they came out with.
I think so. I think so. I don't have
the
that
hardcover.
I pick up the singles when I can.
Oh, the singles.
The more beat up, the better. I love them.
How many?
I want to read them and play with them and roll them up and stick them in my back pocket, and take them and share them. And yeah.
Gee willikers. How many long boxes of comics do you have?
Oh, let's see. I've got 12 boxes that of just long boxes that I'm actually getting rid of and taking into the store to see about getting store credit. Outside of that, I probably have another 20 long boxes and 8 short boxes. That's my current collection I'm keeping.
Goodness gracious, that's a lot of comics.
It is, and my wife says that too, and so that's why I'm getting rid of 12 boxes. So
compromise, honey. Compromise.
That's right.
It's all about, when it comes to marriages, folks, 2 things come to mind: communication and compromise.
That's it.
Keep it in mind when you're getting hitched or engaged, for that matter. The time scales is here. They say, howdy, folks.
Howdy.
Good to see you. Good to see you, time scales. Hope everything's well in your neck of the woods. Hope things are going good for you. But goodness gracious. So just out of curiosity, if you did the inventory, how many single issues of comics do you own? Is it like 10,000, 12,000, 15,000? How many are we talking here?
Oh my God, how many can fit in a single long box?
Probably 150 to 200, maybe.
Let's say 200, because that math is easier for me to do because I'm an English major.
Sorry.
In fact, on my classroom, there's a poster that says I'm an English major. You do the math.
I love
but,
that. That's
let's
brilliant.
see, 20 times, that'd be 44. That'd be 40,000, I think, maybe. That's 40,000. Then
wow.
the short boxes. Yeah. It's entirely too many, and yeah, it's crazy.
And now you're in the process of downsizing.
Well, those are just the ones I'm keeping, and the let's see, 10. That'd be another 2, 3, 4,000 of things I'm probably getting rid of. So
okay,
I didn't get rid of enough, if you ask my wife.
I didn't get rid of enough, honey. I'm sorry. It's all right. You're going to be just fine. But I wish you the best of luck with downsizing that, taking it to your LCS, and figuring out what they're going to take, what they may not take, whatever the case may be. In other words,
if not, I'll donate it to something. So,
well, there is a charity organization out there called cb4k.org, which is Comic Books for Kids, that you can donate it to, and they'll take them to children's hospitals and cancer centers where kids are going through unfortunate
I just need to
circumstances.
re-separate them, because a lot of what I have is probably not something you donate to kids. It's the harder edge stuff, like the Howard Chaykin books and that kind of thing. Yeah.
That's who it was, Howard Chaykin. Yeah, I was trying to think of one of the names, but Howard Chaykin is certainly one of them. Yes. When it comes to comic covers, I mean, so many great artists out there. But one of my favorites, and the one who got me into comics to begin with, was Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross.
That's a great book, and it's a beautiful book.
Darn right it is. Alex Ross is the cream that rises to the top. Oh yeah,
he's
cream
amazing.
of the crop. He's the cream of the crop, man. I mean, I have a cover that he did for Dynamite, Shadow #1. It was fantastic. Fantastic. All the shades of red he's got on the cover for the face and the mask.
Yeah, his stuff is better than photo quality.
Yeah, just look at it online. It's great. And one of the beauties of comic books is, feel free to, if you're watching or listening to this right now, visit your LCS and dig through the dollar bins or the $5 bins, whatever. Just dig through them, because you'll find something, I'm sure.
Bins. Those are my favorite, the quarter bins.
Oh, the quarter bins? Well,
I love the quarter bins. They're beat to hell and back, but there's so many good issues.
I don't think we have quarter bins at my LCS. Yeah. The shops that I have here in the state of Maryland, where I am right now, I would say we have dollar bins for sure.
Okay.
And we have $2 bins, but I don't think we have quarter bins. I'm sorry to disappoint you. So if you have any,
there's a store near me and they have quarter bins, and I love it because it's just like stuff that, like, oh, this is good stuff. I would have never bought this, but I'm going to buy 6 of them now.
Well, if you find any Shadow or Supergirl iterations, let me know.
Oh, there you go.
Supergirl. Going back to the House of L again.
That's right, back to the House of L.
I know, who'd have thunk? But, with that being said, well, you said you were a teacher. What do you teach? You're an English teacher?
I'm an English teacher. I'm an English and special ed teacher. I teach. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
how long have you been doing that?
I teach American history, American Lit. Sorry.
Oh, American literature. Okay. How long have you been doing that?
About 3-4 years. You
like it?
I do. I love it. American Lit. It's really my wheelhouse for writing and reading. It's where probably a lot of my inspiration comes from. I love the themes that are in American literature, because everything that you talk about everything in American Lit, it all goes back to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. It's all about the search for equality and the search for freedom, and that's where you get the all the central conflicts in most of the great literature. The Great Gatsby, it comes from that. Does because rich girls don't marry poor boys, Jay, or to The Awakening, or Edith Wharton's Ethan Frome, Hemingway's stuff, Langston Hughes' poetry, all of that. It all goes down to the search for equality, the search for justice, the search to live your life on your own terms. Zora Hurst in Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I love those themes. I think, and they probably weave into my own fiction a lot too, simply because I'm such an American lit nerd, and the stories are so good, so good.
Wow, that's great! Congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And we can always use more teachers in the world and educating others and telling the new generation that all you gotta do is take a look. It's in a book.
The Reading Rainbow.
See what I did there? Yeah, you're welcome.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, because I encourage it.
We all worship the great God Lamar.
LeVar Burton, yes.
LeVar, not Lamar.
LeVar, not Lamar, but LeVar Burton.
Oh,
yes,
my God.
yes. Sorry.
It's
okay.
late.
It's late. We're tired. We've had one too many drinks of the reading Kool-Aid. No, it's cool because we like to read, and I think reading is great. And as a matter of fact, earlier this week was World Book Day or Read Across America Week. So
something like that.
Yeah, go visit your LCS. Go visit your local library. You may find something you might enjoy. But that being said, I do want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Sean Taylor for being our guest on this week's episode of Freewheeling Friday. Sean, it was great to have you here. Congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And wish you the best with everything moving forward. If someone wants to know more about you or purchase a copy of your books, where can they follow you on social media?
The two easiest places to find me, one is my official website, which is thetaylorverse.com. The other is my writing blog, and it is Bad Girls, Good Guys, and it's called Bad Girls, Good Guys, and Two-Fisted Action, just like the book. But the blog itself is badgirlsgoodguys.com. No hyphens, no punctuations, anything like that. Just thetaylorverse.com and badgirlsgoodguys.com. And from there, you can link out to find me on social media. You can pretty much look up just about any social media and look up Sean H. Taylor, and that will be me. I've tried to keep that consistent so it's easy to find. And I would recommend if you regularly follow different things on YouTube, you can jump over to my channel, Sean H. Taylor, as I just said, because I do a almost daily book talk. It's 60 seconds of one-on-one fiction instruction through YouTube. So you can check that out as well. And there's a link at my website too, though.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. All the links are located in the description below for people to check out all the wonderful things that you're doing or have done in the past. So don't forget to check those out, folks. It's important stuff. With that being said, Sean Taylor, I'm going to talk to you here again momentarily. So stick around. Feel free to grab some food and drinks in the non-existent real life backstage area of this real life studio that apparently doesn't exist. And we'll be with you in just another moment. I promise, Sean. Promise. My name is Ryan of And I Quote Channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Follow me and my YouTube channel across all forms of social media simply at And I Quote Channel. That's where we talk about all things nerdy, whether it's movies, TV shows, comic books, words on a page. Sean Taylor's written many of them, so we do talk about that and some other geek swag. Such as Comic Cons, going to comic book conventions, visiting with people, talking with people. Networking is so important, so we talk about that on our channel as well. Also, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we will throw a great big live stream celebration that will include returning favorites, such as Sean Taylor and company, and some special giveaways that you, the incredible viewer/subscriber, is going to be eligible to win. So tell all your friends about us, because you're going to like the way you look after watching or listening to the content over there at And I Quote Channel. I guarantee it. We also got merch that's on sale right now. The links are in my link tree down below or in our social media bios on Instagram and TikTok. We have shirts, we have hoodies, we got stickers, we got coffee mugs, stationery, throw pillows, and all kinds of great, wonderful things. And they're on sale, which is best of all. So check it out. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Once again, thank you for joining us for this episode of Freewheeling Fridays. We come to you every Friday at 11 p.m. EST. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified of when our videos go up or they go live. Remember, life is better when supporting indie creators out there. And if you want to know more about the Madness Entertainment Group and the great array of programming that they have, I have this to share with you, but you don't have to take my word for it.
Click on the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic